Hey, welcome, welcome. Okay, so if you have a strap or a band or a tie or even a dish towel, I would say might work, and a cushion and a block if you have one. If you don't have a block, you can use. If you don't have a block, you can use a couple of books. There's some options there. And then when you're ready, just come on back and we'll sit here. So we're gonna come into a seated position, but you know what? I don't care if that's what you're doing. If you wanna lay back and have your feet flat on the floor, you can do that as well. And you don't have to be seated. So just that your spine is long. So you can be seated or laying down with your feet on the floor, so your knees are bent. So we're just gonna check in. Notice what we're bringing to the mat or floor today, besides the props. Now it could be something that you're feeling, like emotionally, or some thoughts that you have, or some just like baggage that you're picking up from somewhere else, or it could be some physical stuff. And we'll try to kind of tease apart what is ours and what is kind of like lumped on us. We won't judge it too much. We're just going to kind of try to push away, leave at the door, perhaps, anything that is not of use to this practice right now. Or even just notice what you have. So it might be some tingling in the chest or some sensation somewhere. And without judging it or necessarily even labeling it, just notice it and move on. Sometimes just acknowledging something is all that the squeaky wheel needs. So from here, we're going to dip the chin down towards the chest. We're lengthening the back of the neck. So if you're laying down, you're kind of tilting your chin in towards your chest. So if you're laying down, it might be slightly different. It might take a little bit more effort. You can gently kind of rock the head from side to side. Notice any areas of tightness or areas where it feels like you can be more mobile. And then we'll pick the head up. I'm going to dip the right ear down towards the right shoulder. You can even place your right hand on the floor if that's easier, if you're sitting up and you want to kind of relax a little bit. We're going to be here for a couple breaths. You can kind of rock the head forward and back if you'd like to play around a little bit. Noticing sensations here. And then we'll come back up through a neutral spine, a neutral neck, and we're going to tilt our head over to the left side, and you can place your left hand on the floor. If you're laying down, you don't have to worry about putting your hand on the floor. And then we'll come back up to a neutral spine. Check in again, notice how you feel. If your legs are crossed, you'll uncross and recross so that your position is slightly different. And if you have a strap, you can grab that. Now, if you are laying down, you might want to, and you're going to make the strap kind of as big as you can. Your arms are going to be out to either side. So you'll hold on to each end of the strap, you'll lift it up and over your head and then behind your back. Lift up and over your head and behind your back. And my hair is so big right now that I hook the strap on my hair on the way over. So I have to make it a little bit, my strap a little bit more narrow, and you can start to do that as well. If this is easy for you and you want to shorten your strap, shorten the distance between your hands, you can do that. Excuse me. Uh-oh, I see a doggy butt. And then we'll do one more time, up and over. And back. And we'll take a little break here. We are going to continue to use the strap. Now we'll take the strap in our right hand and we'll bring our right hand over our head, and it's kind of behind. So my hand with the strap is behind my head. My left hand will reach and grab the strap. So you can, so this is Gomukhasana arms or cow face pose arms. And so eventually, if you want to work your hands closer to each other on the strap, let me just turn so you can see. You want to work them closer together, you can do that. Or you can leave them here. So we maybe challenge yourself, but don't hurt yourself. We can hold here for a few breaths. Now, if you're seated and it's uncomfortable, find, you can shift around, find a more comfortable seat. If you want to do Gomukhasana legs as well, they would just stack one knee over the other. So it's more like this. So you can stay upright or you can start to sit forward. Now there's another option here to kind of lift up on your right hand, pull down with your left, kind of keep like you're flossing between your shoulder blades, or maybe drying off between your shoulder blades if this was a towel. Kind of playing a little miniature tug of war behind your back here. And then release it. Remember which arm you did, if maybe you didn't start on the right like I did. You take some shoulder rolls, release your strap, shake your arms out. If you wanted to switch the legs, again, you can. If you had picked Gomukhasana legs. And then we'll take the strap in our left hand, bring the left hand over your head and then behind your head, and then reach back with your right arm down by your hips. You can hold here. You can fold forward. You can eventually floss. If you want to lift up on the left hand and then gently lower down. I have these short hairs in the back towards my neck that keep getting caught in my strap. Oh, we got Mary. And then we can release the strap. Shake out the arms, take some shoulder rolls. We can actually uncross the legs if you have them crossed, reach your hands behind you and lean back on your hands. I guess if you were admiring a sunset and you're sitting out on the grass or the beach, this would be a good way to do it. So your arms are behind you and you're kind of leaning back. The chest is open. You can even let the head fall back if that's comfortable. So we want it to feel like your neck is long and then also back. So try, if it's crunching up a lot or if it's uncomfortable or if it makes you dizzy, just skip it. Keep your neck straight. If there's anything in any of the classes, my class or anybody else's, that you're taking and you find that the pose isn't working for you, skip it. Skip it, maybe study it later. We're gonna move into a supine position. So on the spine, we're gonna lay down and you're gonna have the bolster over your head. So not over your face, but over top of your head. So I'm laying on my back, my bolster is right above my head, and I'm gonna place my arms over my head on top of the bolster. So if you don't have a bolster, you can use a cushion from your couch, a hard pillow off your bed. Excuse me. And if your shoulders are a little bit more open and you'd rather, you can take your arms underneath your bolster. Now this position, for me, I really enjoy, like if I had sandbags, it's really nice to place sandbags over your forearms here. Now, if you're on your back, you can also play around with a little bit of pelvic tilt here. You can tilt the pelvis forward, creating an arch in your back, creating some space between your back and the floor. And then you can tilt the pelvis backwards, an anterior tilt, or posterior tilt, sorry, a little brain cramp there, and smushing kind of the area of the low back so that your low back is kissing the floor. And then tilt it away. Now, if you have any pinching or burning sensations in the shoulders, maybe go back to having your arms on top of the bolster. Take just a couple breaths here. And we will remove our arms from underneath the bolster. And we're actually going to push the bolster away for a little bit and we're going to roll over onto our bellies. So I'm going to kind of face you guys. Lay down on your belly. And we'll start on our right-hand side. So we're gonna take our right arm out to the right. So generally speaking, my thumb should be a little bit lower than my shoulder. So if I'm looking out at my shoulder and my thumb's gonna be a little bit down so that it's not 100% straight out from the shoulder, it's a little bit down. And from there, we can roll back onto that right shoulder. You can use your left hand and your left foot as kind of a kickstand or prop. If you want to add intensity, your right arm would be 90 degrees here, and then roll back onto it. It's a little bit too much intensity for me. So I like my arms straight. You can even take your left arm, bring it up over your back. So both of your arms are behind you. Your head is on the floor or perhaps on a block or a pillow. Just a couple more breaths here on this side. And on the inhale, you'll roll back onto your belly. And we'll stay here in the middle here for baby crocodile. So the elbows will be bent and the forehead will be down on top of the hands. Here you can also kind of massage your forehead. I'm gonna rock your head back and forth on top of your hands. Trying to keep the back of the neck still long. Okay, we'll take our left hand out to the left. The thumb is a little bit below the shoulder here. We'll roll back onto our left shoulder. The right hand and the right foot now become a kickstand. The foot can be behind the body or in front of, whatever makes sense. You can even bring the right hand behind your back. So just a couple more breaths here. And on the next inhale, unroll here, back to the center, back. Oh, sorry, my power strip. Come back into your baby crocodile. So the elbows are wide, the back of the neck is long, the forehead is placed down on your hands. And now I want you to try to lengthen your spine. So imagine that you're lengthening your tailbone down towards your heels. Or I think an easier way to think of it is our belt buckle in Tadasana. We're lifting that up. So, or a posterior pelvic tilt again, but while we're laying here. So it might feel like you're pressing your hip flexors into the floor. Okay, we'll push ourselves back through a tabletop position, and we'll bring our bolster back, and we'll do the belly squish with the arms crossed. So we'll lay our belly down on top of the bolster, and we're gonna cross our arms like this. So if you don't have a bolster and you'd rather be supine and you wanna lay on your back, give yourself a hug like this. You can sit up and give yourself a hug, however you wanna do it. But I kind of love the belly squish, so I will take my bolster either the long way or the short way, and I'll just lay my belly right down on top of it, cross my arms, and then rest down onto the mat. The arms make me think of a twist tie, like a bread twist tie. Sometimes a pillow or a block underneath the forehead is nice here if your arms are crossed and your head is down. So we can now uncross the arms and recross so that the opposite arm is now closer to your chin than the other one. Just a couple more, excuse me, a couple more breaths here. And we'll uncross. You can sit back onto your heels if you want. Take a moment and take any movements that you need, cat and cow. It can be seated. It could be hands and knees. We're eventually going to end up back on our backs. Okay, so we're going to want our block, or you can use a tightly rolled kind of hard towel, something that has some, you can put behind your neck and add some pressure. So sometimes a good sized book, like maybe 4 inches high or so, might work. We're gonna lay down and we're gonna place the block behind our head so that the ridge of the skull and the ridge of the block, so the ridge of the block or whatever you have is kind of right beneath the ridge of the skull. And then from here, you can just slowly, very, very slowly rock your head from side to side. Now, if you don't have any blocks and you'd rather sit up and massage your neck, you can take your thumbs and lift up behind the head, kind of pressing your thumbs into that ridge. Kind of like the head turning one myself, because it takes a lot less effort. And you can rock your head all the way over until your ear touches. And it actually kind of feels nice, that spot right behind the ear. We'll spend maybe just about another minute here. It's nice too if you find a tender spot to kind of hang out on that spot. Probably finding tender spots you didn't even know you had. Okay, and then we'll remove the block. Rest your head down on the floor. And we're going to do a supine twist. So the amount of twist is completely up to you. If you would like to take a moderate twist, you can take a bolster on the left-hand side of your legs here and let your knees fall to the left. So this is a pretty moderate twist. So my feet are on the floor, my knees are bent, and they're resting on the bolster to my left. Okay, if I wanted to make that more intense, I would bring my hips a little bit more to the right, stack my. If I want to create even more intensity, I would cross the right leg over the left and then let them lay back down together. So I want to keep the shoulders on the ground, the spine long, and take whatever variation that feels the right amount of sensation for you. Now, if there's anything uncomfortable about these positions, just come out, maybe find a less intense variation. Now, I'm definitely not an advocate of not trying something. You know, if it doesn't work, don't try it. Well, no, I'd like you to try it, but if it's going to hurt or if it's going to make you really uncomfortable, then maybe you try it a little bit and then you say it's kind of like the stuff on your plate that your parents say, well, at least try it. So we'll at least try it and at least know it's not for you. Although I do say that there are probably some things that might be on your plate that you don't necessarily ever need to try. There's a yoga pose where you're doing a literal headstand and not using your hands. Well, that's not for me. I'm going to safely say that that's not something I'm going to try and see if I like. I'm going to say with my arthritis and my neck loving things like that so much, I'm going to opt out. So it's kind of informed already that it's not going to work for me. Okay, we'll bring our feet back into the center of our mat, our knees pointed up towards the ceiling, and you can kind of rock your knees side to side. You can hug them in towards your chest. And then we'll take the same variation on the other side. So if you wanted to move your bolster over to the right-hand side, let your knees fall to the right and rest on the bolster. That's a good variation. You can move the bolster, move the hips further to the left, let your knees fall to the right. Second variation. And you might find something in between. Maybe you put the bolster or a block or something between your knees. That actually feels kind of awesome. Wish I would have thought of it on the other side. So yeah, I have to disclose something. So from last class, I was laying here on my back, and in the rafters of my she shed here, I saw a mouse run from one end to the other directly above my face. So I was just thinking of that since I'm looking up at the ceiling again, and must be one of my chickens I'd gotten underneath the she shed just now because it clucked and it sounded like it was standing next to me and I jumped. Kind of funny. So not much for being present here in this practice, apparently, but I'm definitely a work in progress. Happy to say. I'd rather be a work in progress than someone just stagnating. No change. Keep doing the same thing over and over. But you can't fix what you can't recognize. Take just a couple more breaths here on this side. And then we'll start to bring our knees back to the center. If you have a block or bolster, grab it again. If you're still got it handy, you can rock your knees side to side. And then we're going to press into our feet, lift our hips, and place the block underneath the waistband of our pants for a supported bridge. Now, you don't have to go maybe as high as you normally go. Maybe try today as a little bit a smaller bridge. If you have your bolster, then granted, your bridge is going to be larger. And we can actually end our practice here in the bridge pose. So we'll do a minute or two here, and then we can close together. And if this bridge is uncomfortable, you can move right into Savasana, any Savasana of your choice, any final relaxation pose that you want. could be side lying, it could be on your belly, could be on your back, knees bent, legs up a wall. And we're going to bring our awareness to the breath. First, noticing the physical, the chest and belly movement while you inhale and exhale. Notice what moves and what stays still as you breathe. Notice how your breath makes you feel. And then we'll start to take deeper breaths, inhaling into the belly, and then the chest. And then exhaling, the chest will lower and the belly will draw in. We'll eventually start to lengthen the time it takes to inhale and exhale. If you're up on a block or a bolster, you can lower yourself down. You can bring your knees up to your chest and rock, or any kind of movements, any final movements that you need to make before we come up to a seated position for closing. So anything you need to do. And then when we're all here in our seated position, we'll bring our hands to our heart and we'll thank ourselves for practicing together this afternoon, early evening. And may we all feel loved, grateful, and connected. And may we have the strength and courage to overcome any obstacles before us. From my heart to your heart, peace and namaste. Thank you for showing up.